Imagine that you could have a speaker that has all the wonderful characteristics of a planar speaker and that completely boxless sound, but from a dynamic speaker that also has the benefits of dynamic speakers. I'm Joe with Gramophone, and today we're so excited because we're going to be talking about one of the most storied speakers in loudspeaker history, the Nautilus from Bowers and Wilkins. Eric, how you doing?
Good to see you again.
Good.
How you been?
Great to see you. Maybe, Eric, you could just tell our listeners a little bit about what went into the thinking behind making a dynamic speaker that has essentially got a boxless sound to it.
Yeah, so essentially back in the late 80s, John Bowers, before he passed, unfortunately, he tasked his engineering crew to essentially try to build the perfect loudspeaker, something that had zero diffraction, something that had zero standing waves in terms of cabinetry distortion. So Lawrence Dickey at the time was the head engineer, and so he started building prototypes basically made out of wood. What he quickly realized was that, depending on which individual drive unit that you were using, these tapering tubes, which diffuse all of that rear standing waves, needed to be a certain length, right? Hence why they're all different lengths. Mm-hmm. But one thing that he didn't take into account was the fact that it went down to 10 hertz, the woofer. So that needed to be roughly about 14 feet long. So obviously that wouldn't fit in many people's rooms. So one day he's sitting down, he's having a spot of tea, and the rain just came down, and all of a sudden he sees a little snail kind of coming across his patio. And he was like, oh, wow, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just spin it. And hence, that's why we have this shape now. So essentially what you have is a speaker that has zero diffraction, which is what everybody knows, right? That's distortion that comes off a square cabinet. And then you have all these rear standing waves that come off of each transducer basically being dissipated out through the back.
Yep, because in a lot of folks' opinion, this is the first one to really accomplish that boxless sound. And the way that there are no real edges here, all these tubes in the back and the winding of the woofer, all that contributes to it, right?
100%. Yeah, so like to your point, it's basically like having drivers in free space.
Yep.
Right, just like in the air. So all you hear is the driver itself.
And here we are 30 years later with so many people still wanting a pair of these that, Kevin, you've recently doubled your manufacturing capability so you could crank out more of them, and yet there's still a waiting list.
It used to be approximately a 2-year wait for these, and we're down to only a year. But that just keeps them super special. So we love these actual speakers, and Eric and I, when we were talking about what we wanted to do with the show here, we're like, what about a custom pair of Nautiluses in Corvette red? And the factory was like, well, Ferrari red. And we're like, it's America, Corvette red. And here they are. So we're thrilled to have these.
And you're actually quad amping them, right?
Yeah. So first of all, our preamplifier and streamer is the Link 10N. So that's brand new from Marantz as well. We're using that as a dedicated preamp with the streaming built in. So left and right pre-outs of that into the Bowers active crossovers. And then so we have into the crossovers, out of the crossovers, into each one of these amplifiers. And as Eric described and as Joe talked about, each amplifier channel is driving a specific transducer in the woofers or in the speakers. So it is an elaborate system, but when you have a system of this caliber, there's no reason to skimp out on any kind of amplification. And we're going to do a lot of listening, but so far, maybe the best system I've heard Nautilus on is this one right here. But again, Link 10 and then 4 Model 10 amplifiers. So 8 total channels of amplification driving these speakers.
Maybe you could just tell us a little bit, Eric, about the quad amping idea. Why would we want to individually amplify each of the drivers?
Well, I mean, the engineers, again, Lawrence Dickey, back in the day, he basically realized that, in order to achieve, a full 20 to, again, these still go down to like 10 hertz, we needed to have 4 individual drive units. Mm-hmm. And what he wanted to do, he was using an active crossover, was to be able to deliver those specific frequency ranges to each individual driver. And that's basically why you need 4 amp channels per speaker.
So each driver is not interfering with any of the other 3.
Nope.
Right.
Correct.
Perfect.
And everything's time aligned appropriately. That's why there's a slight angle to it. If you were to walk up to it, you'd see that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't even realize.
Everything's done on purpose.
Yeah, that it is angled back slightly so that it all arrives at the listener's ear at the same time.
Correct.
That's perfect.
Yep.
Maybe we should sit and take a listen. Nautilus are handmade in Worthington, England. What we heard when we listened to these custom-colored Nautilus with some copyrighted music had us grinning from ear to ear. What Bowers and Wilkins learned in designing Nautilus 32 years ago, about reducing distortion by absorbing backwave energy and minimizing cabinet diffraction shows up today in products like their 603 S3 and the 707 S3 at prices under $2,000 per pair. So just giving you my reaction to this, first time I've ever heard these Nautilus speakers, that Queen Mary cut really showed off. David and I agreed that the imaging and the lack of any kind of box coloration, I've never heard the track sound like that before. And, Kevin, any remarks you might have talking about how, you're able to get that incredibly boxless sound?
The reason they're shaped the way they're shaped is very purposeful. So Eric, just take the team through that one more time.
Yeah, again, it's all about diffusing that energy that comes off a driver, and it's also about diffusing the diffraction, which is that coloration and distortion that you get from a box speaker, right? When the sound is traveling across the cabinet, it hits the edge, that creates coloration and distortion. Because we have essentially no box speaker, right? It's basically drivers in free space, which basically makes it, completely transparent. So when you're listening to this, you don't hear any speaker. You just hear the music the way the artist originally intended you to hear it, which is truly remarkable.
Love it. And Kevin, if we could ask the $64 question, these speakers are 32 years old and essentially unchanged. Which one sounds better, a pair of these or a pair of the famous Bowers and Wilkins 801 D4?
Well, I'm going to put this into a car analogy. If we're out there in the Gramophone audience, if you guys like cars, what would you rather have, a 69 Vet with a 427 or a 2025 Vet with 6.2? There's no wrong answer. Yeah. These speakers are, these were absolutely the best of their kind. And there's so many things that go into our current speakers that we learned from here. Why change it? It's iconic. It still sounds incredible. And just look at them. They're a work of art that sounds amazing.
Love it. Kevin, thank you so much. Eric, thank you so much. And thanks to you folks for watching this video. Can't urge you enough, if you get an opportunity at some point to listen to a pair of Nautilus, you really want to take it because it is a special experience. To find out more about both Marantz and Bowers and Wilkins, you can always go to gramophone.com. And again, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you guys for giving us the opportunity.